Hey everyone, this is going to be a tutorial on using NVDA Remote. This is, of course, an NVDA add-on for controlling another computer that's running another copy of NVDA. And I'm going to go through how to use this. It's pretty simple once you know how to do it. The first thing you'll need to do is go to NVDA and you can download the add-on. There are two versions. There's one for modern versions of NVDA, which is currently on version 2.5, and there's an older version for older versions of NVDA, I think prior to 2019.3 when they changed over to Python 3. So after you download it, you will install it, and then you'll be able to use it. Now, I'm using the current version of NVDA, which is 2022. Let me check here on my Mac.
NVDA menu.
So
Prep tools helps you about NVDA dialog non-visual desktop access NVDA version February 2nd 2022 URL.
Okay, that doesn't help
No
us.
next, no previous. About main instruction. Not desktop access and February 02/02/2.2.2.
2022.2.2, so that's the version that I'm using
Desktop list
as of this recording. Also, you'll notice I'm using two different voices. I'm using the Microsoft one on my Mac and
Start window, search box edit blank.
Ivona on my desktop, just to help you distinguish.
Audacity.
So essentially, this is pretty easy to set up. So if I go to the NVDA menu,
and
then down to Tools,
Pref Tools submenu, View log,
and then I will up arrow
Remote submenu,
right here.
Connect.
All right, I can connect.
Disconnect unavailable.
I can disconnect it.
Mute remote unavailable.
You can mute the speech feedback from the other side of the connection, which is helpful if you want to go back to controlling your computer, but you don't want to hear the audio from the computer that you're controlling.
Push clipboard unavailable.
This lets you push the contents of the clipboard to the other computer, and this works in either direction.
Copy link unavailable.
You can copy a link to your clipboard that can be used to automatically start a session.
Options.
And then we have the options. Let's take a look at options.
Options dialog. Auto connect to control server on startup checkbox not checked.
Okay, this is used to set up unattended access, and basically the way it works.
Play sounds instead of beeps checkbox checked.
Oh yeah, and then you've got this checkbox here to play sound effects instead of beeping tones.
Delete all trusted fingerprints button.
This lets you delete all your trusted connections. So basically, each time you connect to a new server, it will ask you if you want to trust it.
OK button. Can't auto connect to control server on startup checkbox not checked.
So back to this option. If I check this box,
checked. Use remote control server radio button checked.
And then I tab, you have two different options. This add-on either allows you to host your own server, or you can connect to a server that someone else has already set up. The difference obviously is if you host your own, you have to port forward, or you have to use a VPN or connect to it from the same network. This is probably better for privacy, because if you're controlling your own machines, you'd probably want to set it up this way rather than connecting to a relay, which is basically a server in internet land that's controlled by someone else. So potentially you don't know what that person might be doing on that server. The obvious advantage of a server like that is if you're trying to help someone, you tell the person to connect to that server, you join that server as well, and it just works because your connections are being they're being passed through an intermediary. But basically, what this option does is it lets you configure an unattended session when NVDA starts. So, for instance,
Host control server radio button checked. Use remote control server radio button checked.
So, if I was doing this, I would host my own server.
Host control server radio button checked.
And we'll do that.
Allow this machine to be controlled radio button checked.
And then if you tab, you have two options. You can allow your computer to be controlled.
Control another machine radio button checked.
Or if I down arrow, you can control another computer. In this case, I want to set it up for unattended access.
Allow this machine to be controlled radio port. Edit selected 6837.
And if I tab, we get to the port box. The default port is TCP 6837.
6837 blank.
You can change this if you want. It's not really necessary.
Key. Edit blank.
And then if you tab, you get to the key. The key is important because it's what you have to enter on either side, and the key has to match. So the controller has to type this. The controller has to type this in, and then the target has to type it in as well. And if the keys match and the modes match, the connection will be established. Now, it's my understanding that you could technically have multiple controllers because multiple controllers can connect to a single target. I'm not really sure why you'd want to do that. Maybe you have multiple people that you're trying to help or trying to train, and they could control your computer from their computers at the same time. But anyway, let's just, for the sake of this, let's type in remote as the key.
Play sounds instead of beep. Delete. OK button. Audacity. Track.
And that's set up. So if I restart NVDA.
Exit. Restart. NVDA remote connection security warning dialog warning. The certificate of the server could not be verified. This connection may not be secure. It is possible that someone is trying to overhear your communication. Before continuing, please make sure that the following server certificate fingerprint is the proper one. If you have any questions, please contact the server administrator. Server SHA 256 fingerprint, FBF2D. Connect and do not ask again for this server button.
Okay, I'm not sure what that was on my computer. Oh, that might have been my Mac doing something because I've got my Mac plugged into the mixer. This is a warning that pops up when you connect to a server.
Connect button. Cancel button. Connect and do not ask again for this server button. Connect button.
I'm going to choose connect and do not ask again.
Connect and do not. Windows Security Alert dialog. Windows Defender Firewall has blocked some features of this app. Windows Defender Firewall has blocked some features of NVDA application on all public and private networks.
This is a standard alert in Windows Firewall. Because I'm setting up a peer-to-peer connection, I have to allow this.
Publish path at private networks, public networks, such as those in airports and coffee shops. Not recommended because these networks often have little or no security. Checkbox checked.
So there's two different network types in Windows.
Private networks, such as my home or work network. Checkbox not checked.
I have my computer set to public because I kind of adopt this method, this ideology of I don't trust anything else except for my own stuff. So I try to make my stuff as secure as I can.
What are the allow access button?
So I'm going to allow access.
Pressed. Disallow dialog. There was a problem with your last action. If you think this is a bug, please tell us exactly where it occurred. OK button. Audacity. Track view.
Wait, am I still recording? I better still be recording. Because if I'm not recording, I'm going to be mad. So at this point, the connection is set up. And I'll show you how to connect peer-to-peer first, and then we will do a server connection.
NVDA menu.
So on my Mac,
Pref setting. To remote
I'm
sub
going to go
menu
to
E.
Remote, Connect.
Connect dialog. Client radio button checked.
In the Connect dialog, you can choose client or server. Client is, basically client is you're connecting. Server is you are hosting the server, which, I mean, you can do that if you want. I'm going to choose client, and I will tab.
Control another machine radio button checked.
This is fine because I want to control my desktop.
Host. Combo box collapsed. Edit Alt plus H blank.
All right, this is the host box. I'm going to type in the IP address of my computer. It's a private IPv4 address. And
Key. Edit Alt plus K blank.
key should be remote. Type that in.
Generate key button Alt plus G.
In this dialog box, you can generate a key. If you connect to a server and hit generate key, it will generate a random string of numbers.
OK button. Desktop list. Recycle bin.
And, ooh, that did not work. Why didn't that work? Oh, you know why? Because...
NVDA menu. Error connecting dialog unable to connect to the remote computer. OK, desktop, remote, disconnect unavailable, connect, control, client rate, server rate, control another machine rate, get external IP button Alt plus, external IP, edit read only multi-line Alt plus E blank.
Okay, so I think I have to do this in server mode. Basically, if you choose server, you have a button to get your public IP address.
Port, edit Alt plus P selected 6837.
Yeah, okay, so...
Key, edit Alt plus K blank.
Do remote.
Generate key button Alt, key, edit, OK, desktop, Windows security alert, publish, what, allow access button Alt plus A.
Wait, I didn't want to start a server
task
on this
bar,
computer.
Start, task, NVDA,
Hold on.
Remote, disconnect D, desk.
This is embarrassing. Why won't you work?
NV prep to remote connect. Unavailable. Disconnect.
It should have been set up.
Remote tools submenu. Audacity.
Hang on. Let me make sure I have the IP address right. I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, so I'm not sure why I got that error when I was setting up the controller computer. But that error about an action not being allowed, but it seems to work. So the way I got it to work on my Mac was by specifying client and then the IP address of the computer, a colon, and the port number. So colon 6837. Now I'm connecting. It's giving me the warning about the server.
Connect button.
I trust the server. This is my computer.
Connect and do not ask again. Desktop list. Recycle bin. Connected.
Okay, so I'm connected. Now, if I hit F11...
Controlling remote machine. Start window. Search window. Audacity.
So...
Folder view list. Remote incident manager. Audacity. Brave. Microsoft Edge. Zoom.
Now, because I'm on the same network, the latency is extremely low, and you can tell that...
WinSCP. VLC Media Player. PUTTY.
They're talking pretty much at the same time, which is very nice. And yeah, so at this point, the session is started. Now, the thing I can do too is if I want to be able to control my computer unattended even after it restarts, excuse me, I can set NVDA to copy its configuration to the system profile, which means that I can access this on the lock screen and things like that. So to do that, I'm going to
NVDA menu.
Go to the menu, and I should probably silence the speech.
Preferences submenu.
So let's show you how to do that here. So if I hit F11 on the controller, which is my Mac.
Controlling local machine.
Now I'm back to controlling my Mac.
Start desk.
If I go into the menu.
NV remote connect disk mute remote M.
I can mute
desktop
that connection. And now if I hit F11.
Controlling remote machine.
Tools submenu. Preferences submenu.
So I'm pressing keys on my Mac, but you're hearing the output from my desktop. But you're not hearing the output from my Mac because I told it to mute. So let's go in here.
View tools. View tool prep settings.
Settings.
NVDA.
Yeah, this is incredibly
place
responsive, obviously because it's on my network here at the house.
Logging left. Start NVDA. Use NVDA during sign. Use currently saved settings during sign in and on secure screens. Requires administrative privileges. Button.
This is the button I want to click in the general settings for NVDA.
Warning dialog. Add-ons were detected in your user settings directory. Copying these to the system profile could be a security risk. Do you still wish to copy your settings? Yes button.
And it gives you that warning if there's add-ons, because obviously if you don't trust the add-ons that you have installed, they could do things to your system. Obviously make sure that you trust the add-ons that you install.
Secure desktop. User account control dialog. User account control. Do you want to allow this app to
Now,
make changes to your device?
This is the
NVDA.
problem. Because NVDA remote isn't running on the secure desktop, I can't control it. So if I
Show yes button.
tab to yes on my computer,
Copying. Success dialog. Successfully copied NVDA user settings. NVDA setting.
here we go.
Desktop.
So now if I restart my desktop, I should be able to access it even from the lock screen, and then I could type in my password and it would log in and I could connect. So that's how you do it. And at this point, the session is configured.
NVDA menu. Prep tool. View. Remote submenu.
I can go to remote.
Connect. Disk. Mute remote unavailable. Push clipboard. Copy link.
I could copy a link to this.
Options. Push clipboard.
I could push the clipboard. So if I copied something on my desktop and I wanted to copy that to my Mac, you would copy it on the target computer. And then on the controller side, you would choose push clipboard. Well, actually, I believe you have to do push clipboard on the computer that you want to transfer from. So if I was controlling this computer in terms of my desktop, I would copy something to my clipboard on the desktop, go to the tools menu, and then go to push clipboard. That would copy it to my Mac. If I wanted to copy something from my Mac, I would do the exact opposite. I would control the Mac, copy something on that clipboard, and choose push clipboard, which would copy it to the desktop clipboard. So that's handy for copying text back and forth. And
Copy.
yeah, so
Remote submit.
the session
Tools.
is working
Desktop list.
as you would expect. Obviously on the controller side, you can hit F11
Controlling local machine. Controlling remote machine.
to toggle back and forth.
Controlling local machine.
If you want to end, you can choose disconnect from the menu.
Remote connect. Disconnect D. Desktop list.
And now the session is disconnected. I'm going to do the same thing on this computer.
Remote disconnect. Desktop list.
And there we go.
Audacity.
And here I am back in Audacity. Now, that's how you do a peer-to-peer session. So again, to connect, you would choose client. On the machine that will act as the controller, you choose client, you type the IP address, a colon, and then the port number. And it should connect. And that's my phone, sorry about that. And then you should be good to go. Now, that is a peer-to-peer connection. Better for privacy, but probably not ideal for anyone else except for your own use or possibly your own personal use inside of a network. So maybe you have a company and you want to control your work PC. You could do this, and then you would only be able to control computers from inside your network. Otherwise, as I've said, you have to port forward, or preferably you'd want to use a VPN. I don't know how secure this is. I've heard it's not the most secure. So probably exposing it directly to the internet probably isn't the best idea. But if you keep it inside of your own private network or on a VPN, you're probably okay. Now, let's talk about how you connect to a server.
NVDA menu.
In this case, let's say that...
Desktop.
Let's see. I'll just start on my Mac. So let's say I want to control my Mac.
NVDA menu. Prefer tool.
No. I want to control my desktop.
View log. Remote sub. Connect.
I'll choose connect.
Connect dialog. Client radio button checked.
I'll choose client because I don't want to host a server. And that's important. Don't choose server unless you want to host a local server on your computer.
Control another machine radio button checked.
In this case, I want this to be controlled.
Allow this machine to be controlled. Host. Combo box collapsed. Edit selected localhost.
By default, it's set to localhost. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to type in an address. The official server is NVDA remote.com. I don't know how secure that is. There's another one called NVRA.io, which has a bunch of different servers in different geographical locations. And the advantage to that is that there is latency. So when you connect to a relay server and the other person connects to that same server, the commands have to go through that server to go back and forth. So if say the controller is in the US and the target is somewhere besides the US, there could be a bit more latency. So just keep that in mind. What this tries to do, to my understanding, and you can visit nvra.io for the list of servers, is it tries to set up servers in different geographical locations so that the latency won't be quite as high. Now, the problem is both the controller and the target have to use the same server, so I don't know if that really helps, but I suppose it could be good if, say, the people you're trying to help are in the same state or the same country, because you could connect to a relay that's a bit closer. So in this example,
Key host.
I'm going to type in tx.nvra.io.
tx.nvra.io blank.
Which is a server, I think, in Dallas. So I'm in Houston, so I'm in Texas, so this will work a bit better.
Key edit blank.
For the key, we'll just do remote.
Generate key button. OK button. NVDA remote connection security. Cancel button. Connect and do not ask again. Audacity. Track view table. Track one selected row. Connected to control server.
Right, so I'm connected to the control server.
NVD remote connect.
And
connect.
On here,
Control another machine radio button checked.
we'll do control another machine.
Host. Combo box.
tx.nvra.io.
Key.
Keys remote, so the key has to match. Obviously, you might want to make a stronger key with a bunch of characters and mixed case and things like that.
OK. NVDA remote connect and do not ask a desktop list. Recycle bin. Connected.
There we go. So if I hit F11,
Controlling remote machine.
Start window.
Search window.
Audacity.
Folder view list. VLC media player. WinSCP. Zoom.
right, so the latency is still pretty good because I'm connecting to a server that's closer to me. So in this instance, I'm not connected directly between the two computers on the same network. I'm connected to a server on the internet that is passing the commands back and forth.
Microsoft Edge. Brave. Zoom. WinSCP.
So the lag seems to be about the same because, again, the latency isn't very high from the server I'm connected to.
Recycle bin.
But that's how you would start a session with someone who wasn't necessarily on your network, or someone else that was just on someone else on a different network. And of course, I can do all the things I would want to do. I have control over the target as well.
Start window. Search window. Search box edit blank.
And of course, that means that you can work together to try to solve problems, which is always nice. And the good thing about NVDA and the way that this program works is it only sends the speech command, or it only sends the information through, so it's very low latency, and it doesn't use that much data because it's just sending information for the speech engine or your Braille device to process. This doesn't send audio or video, so if you need something like that, this is not the best thing to use. But if you just want to control another computer running NVDA, this works really well. If I...
NV prep to remote connect disconnect.
I'll disconnect.
Desktop list. Recycle bin.
I'll disconnect there. So I just disconnected the target machine. Now, the thing to know is the connection is still active on the controller side. So if I try to press keys, it's not doing anything because technically I'm still connected to the server as a controller. So if another target typed in the same key, I would be able to control that computer.
Controlling local machine.
Let's go back to my computer here.
NVDA. Disconnect D. Desktop.
And disconnect from that server. There are some keystrokes that you can use. So if I go into
NVDA menu. Preferences submenu.
Preferences and then input gestures. So this is the NVDA input gestures dialog, which allows you to customize pretty much all the commands that are used in NVDA. In this case, the add-on adds its own category here, and I can take a look at the keyboard commands and change them. So I'm going to expand this.
Expanded. 4 items. Copies a link to the remote session to the clipboard.
So a few of these commands are not mapped.
Disconnect a remote session collapsed.
Disconnect a remote session. This has a keyboard command, so if I expand it.
Expanded. 1 item. NVDA plus Alt plus page down. Keyboard. All layouts.
So the default key mapping to disconnect is NVDA key, Alt, and page down.
Disconnect. Collapse. Mute or unmute the speech coming from the remote computer.
That toggle or that command isn't mapped.
Sends the contents of the clipboard to the remote machine collapsed.
This other command is, though.
Expanded. 1 NVDA plus Shift plus Control plus C. Keyboard. All layouts.
NVDA Shift Control C. That's a really awkward command.
Remove button.
Now, if I tab, I can get rid of this.
Reset to factory defaults button.
I could remove it. I could add another one. I can also reset all the commands to factory defaults, which I don't want to do.
OK button.
But that's how you work with the input gestures. Let me actually show you real quick. So let's say I don't like that command.
Reset. Remove button. Pressed. Unavailable.
Remove.
Tree view. Sends the contents of the clipboard to the remote machine expanded.
Right. So this has no action now.
Object navigation collapse. Sends the contents of the clipboard to the remote machine expanded. Add button.
So if I hit add.
Pressed. Unavailable. Tree view. Inner input gesture.
It asks me to type the command. Let's say NVDA Shift C.
Context menu.
So I just typed that.
NVDA plus Shift plus C. Laptop keyboard.
Now, if I down arrow, I have choices.
NVDA plus Shift plus C. Keyboard. All layouts. NVDA plus Shift plus C. Laptop keyboard.
You can assign this to the laptop layout or to all layouts.
NVDA plus Shift plus C. Keyboard. All layouts. Input gestures dialog. Tree view. NVDA plus Shift plus C. Keyboard. All layouts. Sends the contents of the clipboard to the remote machine expanded. Collapse. Mute or unmute the speech coming from the remote computer.
And maybe I want to do mute, so I will highlight that, hit tab.
Add button. Pressed. Unavailable. Tree view. Inner input gesture.
Hit the space bar. It tells me to type in a command. Let's say NVDA key Shift M.
Context menu. NVDA plus Shift plus M. Laptop key. NVDA. Input gestures dialog. Tree view. Mute or unmute the speech coming from collapse. Disconnect a remote session collapsed.
And for disconnect,
NVDA plus Alt plus page. Remove button. Tree view. Add button.
So here's the interesting thing. If you already have commands here,
Tree view. Disconnect a remote session expanded.
You can tab from the command itself to the add button. If you down arrow,
NVDA plus Alt plus page down. Keyboard. All layouts.
This is the command that's been assigned. If you tab here,
remove button.
You can delete it.
Pressed. Unavailable. Tree view.
So it's actually possible to assign multiple key commands to the same function.
Copies a link to...
Or that's my understanding.
Disconnect a remote session expanded.
So for disconnect, let's say...
Add button.
Add.
Pressed. Unavailable. Tree view.
And we'll do... We'll do NVDA Shift D.
Context menu. NVDA plus Shift plus D. Keyboard. All layouts. Input gestures dialog. Tree. Remove. Reset to OK button.
And if I tabbed OK.
Desktop list. Recycle bin.
My changes are saved. Let me save my configurations.
Configuration saved.
And let's just say
NVDA prep settings.
I want to update
NVDA.
my settings on the login window.
Show play log start NVDA after use NVDA use currently warning no button yes button secure desktop copy success dialog successfully copied NVDA set
And
desktop
there we go. So now instead of going to the menu, I can hit those key commands that I just assigned while I'm connected to a session, and they will execute, which is pretty nice. So
Audacity.
that's going to conclude how to use this program basically. It's pretty cool. Not ideal if you're trying to help random people, because in order to use it, both computers have to have NVDA installed. But it's handy if you're controlling your own computers or you're helping someone else who's blind and who uses the NVDA screen reader. So hopefully you guys have found this helpful. And until next time, take care.